Okay, you've seen the title, you know what I'm talking about, and some of you probably already have your cursors hovering over that dislike button. And I get it. Either I'm one of yet another people trying to distance themselves from the form, or I'm just going to argue semantics. So, in this video, I aim to discuss the semantics surrounding video essays as a pseudo-genre on YouTube, and why such semantics might just be harmful to a form I think has far greater potential than what has been realised by the videos that typify the form. So why make this now? Well, as I just implied, I've seen a few other creators try to distance themselves from the format, but for what I'm beginning to think are the wrong reasons. They are distancing themselves from the form, but not the term. Although I do have some issues with the form as it stands, I want to flip that on its head. Keep the form and abandon the term, because video essays are being held back by the very same label that most creators identify their work with, and indeed the very label I identify this video with, lacking a better term. So here it is, a video essay discussing why I hate the term video essay, or at least how it's being used currently. To discuss my issues with the term, I'm going to break this video up into smaller sections. As with any video broken up along these lines, the way in which I divide up points of discussion is somewhat arbitrary. So bear with me when one section bleeds into the next, or when various points work in multiple categories. Like I said before, it's arbitrary. I do so in order to make my discussion easy to digest and to rebut should you see issues in my argument. Part 1. The thesis is always the same. So first of all, I want to discuss the essay portion of the term. I have many issues here, mostly petty, but one I think is fairly important. An essay is a scripted argument that provides a viewpoint and evidence to support that view. Unfortunately, video essays generally don't have any argument beyond this is good because X, or this is bad because Y. I want to be very clear here, I like the work of the channels I'm showing on screen, and I've done the exact same thing in my videos. It's not the videos I have an issue with, it's that video essays aren't good essays, and a lot of good essays aren't good videos. If you want a real video essay that I think seems more appropriate to the term, I'd recommend checking out Shaun's channel. I treat his videos more or less as podcasts because he's got a great essay, but it's pretty hard to actually communicate his ideas visually, especially given his videos are actually the length of real essays and frequently stretch beyond the half-hour mark as a result. My point is that video essay is a label that frequently misrepresents the actual content, and the videos that typify the form put far too much emphasis on the video part of the term. Almost without exception, I think this is to the detriment of what that form could and should be. Part 2. The video is held above the essay. With that, we come to my second point of issue, the video part of the term. Here I need to acknowledge what I've done in the past and what I continue to do. In many videos, I focus too heavily on the visuals. Often it's just spending way too long making an intro. Those intros themselves are often far too long as well, and sometimes it's entire videos that are little more than an excuse for some pretty visuals. While it's something I'm personally trying to work on, it isn't a huge deal for me when I see it in other places. I'm not saying it's a big deal for creators to favour the visuals, and I frequently still enjoy the results. I do, however, see an unfortunate side effect of such behaviour. The audience often ignores the text of a video for the visuals. A while ago, I was talking with a friend about various YouTube channels that we were fans of, and Nerdwriter came up. I have issues with Nerdwriter's content and expressed that I wasn't a huge fan. My friend, meanwhile, was a fan, and said that he made great videos, even if they occasionally didn't say anything. I'm not saying there's an issue with liking such videos, and I'm certainly not criticising my friend's taste given she put me onto the positively delightful ContraPoints in that same conversation, but for me personally, I can't really engage with a video if, as my friend described, they don't say anything. To be very clear, any criticism I might have for Nerdwriter's content can easily be applied to my own, and his own work looks far better than mine to boot. So I'm not so much criticising his video essays as much as the idea that they are essays at all. Ultimately, because channels like Nerdwriter or an old favourite, Every Frame a Painting, channels that typify what a video essay is, exhibit such a mastery over the editing and presentation of their content, I feel that channels with a different or less visual style aren't given as much attention as their writing deserves. Not only are many creators favouring the video half of video essay, but so are many audiences. Again, there's nothing wrong with those videos. Most of my own videos fall into that same category, but most of them aren't even close to being actual essays. For my money, Lindsay Ellis puts out far better video essays than even the wonderful Every Frame a Painting, but sees what I believe to be far less attention than her work deserves, and I think part of that comes down to the audience holding the visuals in higher regard than the writing. Part 3. The definition is awfully narrow. I mentioned earlier that I was only recently put onto the incredible work of ContraPoints. Her work is wonderful, exactly what I want from a video labelled video essay, and offers a heady blend of creative visuals, brilliant framing devices, and above all else, fantastic writing. This is what I want from a video essay. So imagine my disappointment when, after sharing one of her videos on r/video essay, it was removed for not fitting their definition of video essay. To be clear, the video didn't fit their definition, or at least not as it was intended to be read. And I'm not criticising the act of removing it, but on a subreddit that's supposedly interested in video essays and has a supposedly broad definition of what a video essay is, I think there's something wrong here. The definition this particular sub has for video essay is as follows: a written essay that is read aloud over video accompaniment which seeks to analyse some media text, TV, film, music, art, speech, etc. Hang on a second though, doesn't ContraPoints video actually fit that definition then? After all, it was written and then read aloud. It had video accompaniment. It was concerned with discussion of both a particular piece of media text and aspects of speech. It fits, right? Well, no. Not with the way media text is supposed to be interpreted. What this sub wants to define as a media text is what fits the definition of a traditional media text. It is a film, a video game, a novel, and so on. What precludes this video from submission on this subreddit then is the idea that commentary on social media is not on par with commentary on traditional media. The commentary doesn't matter, the subject does. Okay, holy cow, you just spent ages explaining why a video you liked was removed from a subreddit on which you think it belongs. What's your point? He asks rhetorically. Well, this particular definition of video essay precludes a lot of the very best essays I've come across. The ones that are more academic in nature and far better fit the term video essay than a lot of the work that is regularly pushed to the top of r/video essay. I'm not trying to legitimize my viewpoint via the value I personally take from this particular video essay either. Have a look at the upvotes it received before being pulled. 14 isn't much, right? Well, it's a fair bit more than what most submissions to the sub receive. It's not just me that's thirsty for a different sort of content, but the gatekeepers of taste, or at least the gatekeepers of this subreddit, aren't interested in a broader definition of what a video essay could be, rather offering tacit support for a stale, tired formula, a narrow definition that's stopping some of the very best essayists from reaching mainstream acceptance. As a huge fan of the form, if not the term, I really don't want to see more video essays discussing Stanley Kubrick, Akira Kurosawa, or Martin Scorsese and their ilk. We get it, they're great directors on a technical level, but are you really bringing anything new to the table here and discussing them? Going back to an earlier point, the premise is always the same. X filmmaker is good because Y. That's what's limiting what a video essay should be, what I want to see from them. Ingrained expectations that follow the term video essay are narrow and ultimately limiting. If you think discussion of objectively better subject material, i.e. the works of Kubrick and his friends, then objectively worse content from the likes of The Golden One makes for a better video essay, then you may be guilty of a sort of confirmation bias, only seeking out opinions in places where you already have them yourself. I know I was certainly guilty of this in the past. I would only click on a video if I had a vested interest in the subject, if I'd seen the film, played the game, read the book, and so on. In other words, I was privileging the subject over the discussion. The thing is, a discussion of other forms of media, or taking a highbrow analytical approach to discussing lowbrow art, often leads to the very best the video essay form has to offer. For example, I never would have clicked on Lindsay Ellis's The Whole Plate series in the past, because it was looking at entry-level film theory through the lens of the Transformers movies. But that series remains some of the most insightful, clever, and enjoyable content I've ever seen on YouTube. My final point in this discussion then is that because the term video essay is now loaded with particular connotations, connotations of certain visual traits, certain forms of analysis, etc., I might not see the work that I now most value in the form. When I first started watching videos in this format, I was barely watching more than light analysis. X media is good because Y and in spite of Z. That's fine, but that's not what an essay is. I was watching plenty of videos, but I wasn't watching many essays, at least not many good ones. And I lay the blame for that on the term video essay, how it is used by creators working within that format, and what expectations it encourages in its audience. Part 4. Solutions and resolutions. So, what's the solution? Well, I can't offer any silver bullet here, but I might suggest a few places to begin. First, I think we should stop describing all analysis content as a video essay. If you're making a review, for example, you aren't making a video essay, you're just explaining why you like something. Don't call it a video essay unless you're actually making an essay. Second, we all know the channels that popularize the formats typically described as a video essay, but just because channels like Nerdwriter popularize many elements of the form now synonymous with the term, doesn't mean we should label similar videos with a term that doesn't really apply to them, nor should we preclude channels that eschew such styles from that term if it fits. I really don't want to see video essays go the way of my favourite genre of music. Post-rock became so well defined, so narrow in scope, that the term lost all meaning, and some of the biggest names in the genre released what amounted to the same album over and over, while others tried to disavow the genre altogether. If that happened to video essays, I'd be a little upset, and it's not as far from happening as I'd like. Actually, it could be argued it's already happening. Third, we should seek to live up to the label, not bring it down to the level of mere analysis. If you plan on making a video essay, make sure you've actually got something more substantial than lengthy analysis to offer. You need arguments and evidence, points and counterpoints. Essay here doesn't have to mean thesis, body paragraphs, conclusion, but it does mean we need to have an actual argument beyond simply this is good or this is bad if we want to label our work an essay. Finally, we should stop exclusively seeking out essays on topics we're fans of. If you find a channel you like, don't subscribe only to pass over any video that doesn't discuss a topic you're already familiar with. This was something I did for a long time, and in changing that behaviour I found videos that were more educational, more entertaining and more interesting than those that merely discussed topics I was familiar with. When there's no bias to confirm, it's easy to spot a video that's good on its own merits, not on the merits of the media it discusses. There's a lot of great content out there that I totally passed up on because I didn't recognise what was being discussed. That was a mistake, one I'm glad to have rectified since. As a little postscript here, I think it's important to note why I've been saying we in most of these points. While video essays are certainly collaborative in nature, and there is often an unacknowledged influence on them from a creator's audience, I don't mean it in such terms. Rather, I refer to the fact both creator and commenter contribute to the sort of discussion I want to see in the form. We as creators and we as audience have, in both capacities, the ability to guide the direction these videos take, what sort of videos are actually described as video essays, and perhaps even create the term I hope might replace video essay as the catch-all term it is used as. This is where you come in. I don't want to make out that this video is some kind of essayist's manifesto. I'm far from the person to write such a manifesto, and I think there are holes in my argument you as commenter could either fill in or tear apart, both of which I believe is important to do. So I'd love to know what you think. Is there a problem with the term, or am I just arguing semantics for no real reason? If you were to discuss a new term, what would you want to use? Let me know in the comments below. Cheers, have a good one.